Do you use alcohol, drugs, or something else to try to change how you feel? So to fully make sense of this, I think it's helpful for us to define what we mean when we're talking about trauma and what we mean when we're talking about addictions. So trauma, we're talking about in the broadest possible sense. We can experience what I call covert traumas, adverse childhood experiences, things like physical abuse, sexual abuse, childhood neglect, and so on. Some of the things that can most shape us in life are more covert, subtle experiences. Not getting our emotional needs met, not feeling safe, not feeling loved for who we are as we are. The impacts of these traumas live in our body. In fact, you can check out a previous video, how trauma is stored in the body, that breaks this mechanism down further. But when we have these overloads that happen to us, they cause our nervous system to become dysregulated. We develop what I call a maladaptive stress response. We get normalized to being in a state of anxiety or numbness, depression, or a sense of low self-esteem. It's these reactions which is where addictions come into the picture. I define addiction as a habit or a behavior which is emotionally driven that we don't have control over. The obvious examples, things like alcohol, drugs, food, but also things like sex, work. There's many examples of habits and behaviors that we can be using in attempts to change how we feel that we don't feel fully in control of. Now, here's the key thing. These habits, these behaviors, they are an attempt to self-medicate our nervous system and to self-medicate our emotions. Much of the time, what's happening in addictions is not that people are trying to feel high. They're not trying to feel better than normal life. They're just trying to get back to a point of homeostasis. So many of the cultural perceptions around addiction are the extreme representations. Many people struggle in ways that might be classified as high functioning because their day-to-day life from the outside generally looks okay, but their relationship with the thing they have an addictive issue with is such that there is a lack of control and they're trying to use it to change how they feel. Now, one of the dynamics that can make addictions particularly challenging sometimes to work with is one of the key characteristics is deceit. Deceit of other people, yes, but particularly deceit of ourselves. We have all kinds of narratives that often go with it. Narratives like, I could stop if I wanted to. I'll stop next week. I don't have to do it. I just feel better when I do. Other people may have an issue. I don't have an issue. These are the narratives that keep us caught in the behavior. To really break free of this cycle, of this relationship between trauma being self-medicated with the source of the addiction, we have to first come to a place of truth with ourselves. It may be that we have shame. It may be there's self-judgment. It may be there's a lot of fear around what's going on. But ultimately, if you can see it, you don't have to be it. If we can truly name what's happening, that is the first step to healing and to changing. Once we have that awareness of what's really going on, we can start to move to the second stage, which is if we have a dysregulated nervous system, if we have unhealed emotional pain, we need to deal with it. So when it comes to breaking free from addiction, the first step is to be aware of what's happening. The second step is we need to find healthier and more effective ways to self-regulate our nervous system. If our system is dysregulated and we're using the source of our addiction to manage that, we can't just take away the thing we're addicted to. We have to find better ways to self-regulate our system. The next step is to then deal with the underlying feelings and emotions that dysregulation is an attempt often to escape away from. Learning how to process the feelings and the emotions that we have about the past. Now, sometimes we do that effectively and the habit and the behavior stops. We just don't need it anymore because we have other ways to self-regulate, and those feelings and emotions don't need to be changed and repressed because they're healed. But sometimes what happens is the habit becomes so compulsive that we also need to have strategies and tools to break the habit of the addiction. That every time we're going from point A to point B, we break that habit and we redirect our behavior in a different way. So to help start this process, I'm interested about what's the story that you tell yourself about the thing that you're addicted to, that gets in the way of you changing and healing. Please do post in the comments below this video. How do you get yourself trapped and caught in a pattern that means that you don't change? Please do also check out one of our in therapy stories where we follow people on their real life therapeutic journeys, where we unpack this relationship between trauma and addiction and what it takes to change in a lot more detail.